Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here. So as you guys I'm sure are aware, there has now been a couple of press conferences for Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz 2. And one of the talking points that has come out of these press conferences, from fans at least, is the shape of Andy Ruiz Jr. Since the first fight, it does appear that Andy Ruiz Jr. has put on a few pounds. He's been enjoying the fruits of his labour and, he's put on a bit more timber, put it that way. And a lot of people who may be fans of Ruiz are expressing their concern, and a lot of people who are pro-Joshua are gaining confidence from that. I wanted to really share my 2 cents on the issue. Now, in an ideal world, it would be good if Andy Ruiz Jr. could keep himself in respectable shape all year round and act a bit more professionally. However, this has been a pattern throughout his whole career, and it's never really come back to haunt him so far. I mean, go back to the first Anthony Joshua fight, for example. That was the heaviest he weighed in for about 4 years prior to that fight. That was the heaviest he's weighed in about 4 years, and he still managed to knock out Anthony Joshua. Andy Ruiz Jr. is never going to be a body beautiful heavyweight. This topic has been going on since Andy Ruiz became a relevant prospect and contender. Yet Andy Ruiz has always been a good fighter, and it's never really drastically affected him in the ring. Even in that Parker fight where he lost, very close fight, could have gone either way. And, he's always been competitive despite his body shape and despite the excess timber. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying, he wouldn't be better if he lost a bit of weight. But what I am saying, he's still very dangerous, and he's always been that way. So for me, I'm not really that concerned, if I'm being completely honest. And another thing to consider, the fight is about 12 weeks away, so even if Andy Ruiz Jr. is a bit out of shape, or more out of shape than he usually is, he's got 12 weeks to shed the weight and, to get into more respectable shape. So the guy's got time as well to rectify this issue. If I'm being honest, I don't really see why people are reading too much into it, if you have followed the career of Andy Ruiz Jr. I mean, like I said, I remember when Andy Ruiz Jr. was a highly touted prospect, and people were talking about his weight back then. So this is something that's never going to change with Andy Ruiz Jr. It's always going to be part of his makeup as a fighter and as a human being, but he makes it work, and that's the main thing. Like I said, if he lost a bit more weight, maybe he could be more effective, but regardless, so far in his career, he's made it work for himself. And like I said, in the first Anthony Joshua fight, that was the heaviest he weighed in about 4 years. So, listen, let's not read too much into the shape he was in for the initial press conferences for the Anthony Joshua rematch. That's just my 2 cents. The only thing is, I will say, being in that shape for so long, eventually it can catch up to you. That is one thing to consider. But the guy is, 29, 30 years old. He's still quite young. So I don't think it will catch up to him anytime soon. Maybe in 2 or 3 years it could be different. Maybe carrying all that weight will eventually have a detrimental effect, and especially when his metabolism slows down that much more. So yeah, maybe in 2 or 3 years we could be having this conversation and it would be relevant. But for me, right now it's not. That's just who Andy Ruiz is as a fighter and as a person. And like I said, last fight with Joshua, the heaviest he weighed in 4 years, and it was a career best performance. So I think we should learn really to try and brush weight aside when it comes to Andy Ruiz Jr. He makes it work for himself, and actually you could argue he uses that to his advantage. He's a bit like a chameleon. On the outside looking in, he looks like a friendly fat dude who's not a threat to anybody. And maybe Joshua thought that, but he got his ass whooped. And Joshua shouldn't look at Ruiz like that. He should look at him for the fighter he is. And Ruiz is very skilled. He's a skilled counterpuncher on the front foot, and he's an aggressive counterpuncher. Ruiz has his strengths, and that's what Joshua and his team should be focusing on, not the weight of Ruiz or what he looks like. You don't want to build up that false sense of security again and get yourself knocked out. I don't think Joshua will do that. Obviously, because he lost that first fight, I'm sure he will take this very seriously and he can make the necessary adjustments. We will see. But yeah, they're my 2 cents on this story. I wouldn't read too much into it personally, but maybe I'm wrong, you know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the fight where it all catches up to Andy Ruiz Jr. You know, those years of non-clean living. It could catch up to Ruiz, but I don't think it will be against Anthony Joshua, if I'm being perfectly honest. Share your thoughts below. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about the shape Ruiz was in the press conferences? And does it concern you? Or like me, do you think it's much ado about nothing? Share your thoughts below. Peace.